Hey everybody, welcome to Koali Zoo episode 18, I believe this is. Today I'm joined by just Mike and Rudi because unfortunately Lady isn't feeling very well today, but I hope you guys are feeling well. How are you doing?
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah, same. I will accept a pollen allergy, but the rest is totally fine.
Oh yeah, I mean I can imagine, speaking about that, I didn't get that much done in this episode for a number of reasons. First of all, that was of course episode 17 and a half earlier this week, so I only had the file for a few days. And today was Good Friday, so technically I have had all day to work on it. But I decided to go out hiking instead. There's like this beautiful forest just outside Brussels, and I live kind of close by, and there's like some nice hills and stuff. So I ended up going hiking there instead of working on Koali Zoo. So yeah, that's my terrible excuse for this episode not being as horribly long as some of the other episodes are.
Truthfully, the bonus episode was about the length of a Koali Zoo episode, so just consider this a bonus real episode.
Yeah, and there was also 16.5. Let's not forget about that. I'm still believing Lady is just not here because she's getting for the perfect tapirs now again. I'm just gonna stress that as long as it's possible. So, no, but just joking aside, I'm very happy you went out, Sylph, because I'm super jealous of all the people that can do it, but I'm at the same time feeling super happy for you, because honestly, if I go out for half an hour, you can forget the rest of the day for me at the moment. It's insane.
Oh, with the pollen?
It's insane. It's really... And honestly speaking, I have also to watch out a little bit, because 2 times in my life already I had a chronic asthma from pollen allergy, and I think that might not be the best idea to have right now. So, yeah, I got to stay inside a bit more because of the pollen allergy. It should be good in like a week's time. But this year is heavy because basically we had no winter. And yeah. But so I'm very happy you went out, because there's a lot more important stuff to do than just record.
I mean, not only did we not have much of a winter, it's also like the coronavirus, so people aren't traveling anymore. The air is a lot cleaner. Nature is repairing. We are the virus. All of that stuff.
Yes.
So it's like nature is being extra natural in a sense. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's just cool though.
Thanks
to
for
be
that,
outside.
humanity. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
So, Sylph, what are we going to do today? Before we spend too much time
today is
terrible pollen.
Yeah, it's time for the macaque habitat, which I always kind of planned alongside the chimpanzee habitat. I had this idea to have a big building at the end of the chimpanzee habitat with an indoor section for the macaques and the chimpanzees, because we are up in the like upper corner of the park next to the chocolate mountain, where all of the monkeys and apes are located. Now the thing is, you might notice that I'm not actually in the Koali file because, well, my computer can just barely handle it. I was pretty fed up with the lag at this point, so I went to a separate file and I sort of created this mass study to experiment with and check what kind of composition would fit into the section of the park, and based on that I just created a white box, and now I'm dressing up this white box with some detail.
Cool.
That's kind of clever, yeah? That's good.
Yeah, it's a simple system, I guess, of still trying to work around my computer's limitations. I'm still not sure to what extent it's just my computer being terrible, or to what extent it's just the fact that you guys have NASA supercomputers. But I did notice that my RAM is struggling a lot, because I am hitting the cap of my RAM, which is 16 gigs, and it's only DDR3.
Oh, okay.
So this is probably where the bottleneck is largely located. So I'm gonna have to order some RAM soon and see how that fixes up things.
Yeah, I've got 32 DDR4.
I've got 16 DDR4, but yeah, that also runs fine. So I guess it's the DDR3 thing.
Yeah, even the difference there between DDR3 and DDR4
it's
can be
huge.
quite
It's
significant.
pretty massive difference, yeah.
Yeah, it's huge. I remember when I got my new ones with the new main board. First, I got the RAM before I got anything else, and it was already a huge improvement. And I remember that we had basically kind of the same computer beforehand, so I can tell you that this was significant.
This is giving me Paradise Pier vibes. This is giving me like theme park vibes.
Yeah, it is kind of theme parky, not gonna lie. My actual inspiration for this were very similar buildings to the buildings that the entrance is based on. Just Dutch colonial buildings. It's very specifically inspired by a post office in Jakarta, which uses a similar kind of arch at the entrance, which I thought was really cool. And then next to that, I found a bunch of Dutch colonial buildings which have these towers with small, very modest kind of round spires on top of them, and I figured they would work really well next to this arch as some kind of old colonial office or post office building, something like this, which could be repurposed into becoming this habitat building. So it's also kind of the shell of this building which stands here at the front, but then the building is a bit larger than that, and especially the holding areas for the animals at the back of it extend further than the actual traditional building in the front. Here.
Yeah, it's giving me the architectural language of a train station too.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, totally.
I love it.
Yeah, I think it's that arch with the two towers on the sides, which is definitely very train stationy, if not very much a public building kind of style, which I also think is kind of inherent to Dutch colonial architecture in Indonesia in general, because it really tends to be public buildings which get neo-colonial styles, so train stations and government buildings and things like this. So you do very often tend to end up with compositions like this with colonial architecture.
I like it. I really do like it, especially with the headlights. Also, I think it's benefiting a lot from this kind of open feel then, because the whole building seems to be higher than it actually is because of having this open middle sector. Really in love with that, because it gives you this feeling of open space when you get in, and you still have the natural lighting and stuff. I'm a big fan of that as well. I think it's also like a bit of museum vibe. The old kind of museums have that, so yeah, I really like that.
It's making me really think we need to have a train in the Highlands. now that I see this, this could be really cool.
How is that going to fit into the file though? I'm not sure if there's any space left for that.
Oh, buddy. Come on.
Chocolate Mountain has something in... Chocolate Mountain still has something to offer, I believe.
Yeah, fair enough.
There's actually plenty of space up in Chocolate Mountain.
And at the end of the day, also Chocolate Mountain is not safe to be removed by Mike. So we gotta see.
Please don't remove Chocolate Mountain. It took a long time to craft what is there.
By the way, also...
much.
I gotta say, terraforming will be even more harder, you know? Every time you get the file, Mike, it will be maybe a bit more laggy now. So, terraforming is good. It's quite good that you did this early on. But for those people out there, I don't know who of you figured that already, but I'm like a big fan that I discovered this. If you turn vsync off in your file, terraforming magically is a lot more smooth. Like, it's exactly... a new tool. Honestly, believe me, it's insane. I just turned that off because I thought, okay, maybe it's giving me a few more frames, and you don't notice the frames, but you do notice that the terraforming tool, I don't know if you also notice that, but when you use it, it's kind of a little bit delayed. Like you push, this is gone, like the delay is gone. And it's it's like instant there, and that's so cool. If you turn it off, it works like really well, and it's so much easier to do the little details and stuff. So I can only recommend turn off vsync for a moment, and it's gonna work wonders.
Cool.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was
thanks for
totally unintended that I found this. Was just a coincidence, but yeah, it works.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna try that. Especially here, I had to do a little bit of terraforming eventually, but with my already laggy park file, lag just stacked on top of each other, and terraforming became nearly impossible. That's definitely one of the worst parts for me.
Yeah, I can believe.
And it felt so good to work in this empty park file and just be completely lag-free. This is great.
Yeah, I know. When I go back to an old project, like my botanical gardens, I'm like, oh. This is how the game used to run.
It's also like you don't notice it anymore. Like if you work in a file for a while and it just starts getting laggier and laggier, but you don't go to a different empty file, you just get used to it. And only when you start something new, you're just like, oh, Oh,
Yep.
That's interesting.
It was always the same with Planet Coaster. I remember going back to Isla Napali and they're like, I built in that? Like, I seriously did build here?
Right. It's insane.
Yeah, it's just...
The things we do for love. I mean, builds.
Here we go. So custom roof. Here we go.
I couldn't help it. It just had to be done.
It looks so good, though.
It does. The only...
Yeah, and luckily, it's a piece that's really simple. So in terms of polygons, not a whole lot here.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, it's not too bad.
This is actually the shame what happened partly in Planet Coaster. I remember that we took very complicated pieces. These brackets were sometimes very decorated and very crazy in terms of polygons. And we basically only used the only flat side of that shit piece.
Yep. It was horrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think actually I love the South American pack for all of the small pieces that it has. These stone pieces are so versatile and you can do so much with them, whether it be custom wall textures or roof tiles or anything like that. It's really cool to have these small bits that you can put here and there to make your own detailing.
Yeah. Are we in the park now or are you doing the... No, we are in the park.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're in the park now because it's time to get into terraforming and rock work and foliage and all that. So I had to start putting up with the lag. To be honest, it isn't that bad right now. Like, I think I'm still on a solid 15 frames per second. So it's not like worse than the last episode. It's just when it comes to all that detailing on the building and putting a bunch of pieces down like that, I really wanted to work, with a decent frame rate and plop it in all ready and good to go. You might have noticed I did a little bit of interior work. This building was actually partly inspired by some of the ladies' work, especially the reptile house, which has it sort of takes some cues of the layout and overall roof structure from it. And then also on the inside, it has some concrete walls, but with the same fading green color on the walls as the panda habitat does.
That's cool. That's really cool. I love how the building has a different elevation step to the left-hand side. You can really see that this initially normal building that potentially was on a very solid ground got opened up to the left-hand side where the habitat goes in and has been repurposed. I love that feel of it.
Yeah, it's definitely... I definitely quite chipped away at it with the terrain. It also feels kind of like, I think the indoor sections are shoehorned into this building structure because it clearly looks like a building that wasn't, meant to house a super realistic, recreated natural habitat or anything like this. But it's sort of reclaimed and brought into this context nonetheless. Although I have to say, I didn't do that much interior work, so don't pay too much attention to it. I'm not banking on a mic revamp, of course, though. If you would like to do it, it's totally fine. But it's just quite a simple placeholder version for the time being.
Yeah, if I don't fix that reptile house, the lady is going to murder me.
Oh, God. That's still open. I remember. This backside is still open. Oh, yeah.
Yep. So that is where I wanted to somehow actually down here fix the macaques. Sorry, speaking of backsides. Oh, God, that's a horrible transition. I'm never going to say speaking of backsides again. But yeah, speaking
that's
of that, this one's also still kind of open. Yeah. But I somehow had to shoehorn a macaque habitat in there. So like all of this is kind of preparing for the eventual struggle that is going to be that. Oh, I forgot. But first, I'm actually building this bridge. I totally forgot about that. Well, a bridge, but it's more just like a support structure, I guess. I noticed that there haven't been any supports for the single track of the monorail. Like any point where the two monorails are aligned, there are these double support structures, but I noticed that wasn't the case anywhere where it was just a single track. So I was trying to figure out how to support this place because it's going over the habitat here. But I ended up having to build some sort of bridge to keep this thing supported because, I just can't have supports going into the habitat, I felt.
That's true, actually. You kind of break the mood a little bit, and yeah, I totally get that.
You did a wonderful job. Unfortunately, this track is moving.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh god.
I am amazed by the way that you did this, though. I'm gonna take that into consideration.
This is an interesting technique, yeah.
Yeah, so I had to get a perfect circular arch shape. So the easiest way to do that and the quickest way was to just make a flat circle with the dome technique, and then just take that thing, delete most of the circle, and put this thing underneath it. Because it's kind of a very annoying bridge because it's also curved, and then I need an arch underneath that, which is like vertically arching, but also follows the curve of the track.
I'm so sorry, Sylph.
But yeah. Well, it's never lost. At least we have this time lapse. Okay, we can look at it, appreciate what will forever be lost in the archives.
And who knows? Maybe because the monorail is very limiting in terms of how much you can bend this monorail track, anyways. So in terms of how the angle or the radius of the corners or turns will be, it's not going to change too dramatically, no matter where it is. So maybe we can use it again.
Perhaps. Although I also have to say, it's not the end of the world that it's going to get deleted, because you will see at the end, when it comes to the sight lines, especially from the area where the chimpanzees are, the bridge is kind of in the way. Like, it kind of blocks the view of the building a little bit. And it's not horrible. I mean, I think it adds some interesting layeredness to the view. But without the bridge, I think it would work really fine.
Yeah, I kind of realized that as we were building up this area, this monorail is just in the way, and it needs to go around the path of least resistance. So,
so what is going to be the path of least resistance for it? Because I have no idea where that thing is going to fit in.
So it's probably oh geez, you built here too. Okay.
Yeah. So we're gonna be screwed.
It's actually cool. Now it's gonna start being very funny, because now the space is getting narrower and everyone is trying to fit stuff in, and Mike has his plan for the whole park. Maybe Mike, you need to draw out your plan.
Oh, that would take too long.
Yeah.
What I realized is that having it curve up over area next to the orangutans, it just didn't. The way that I was trying to protect the monorail didn't make sense. I wanted to use something straight so that I could have glass tunnels, and so it's just going to go straight through and kind of grace the temple area a little bit, but I was going to do that in a way where you don't really see the track or anything. So it'll be an interesting challenge.
Yeah, so now that this is in place here and that the macaques are going to be located here, what is the next plan of attack then?
I don't know. I have to look at the file again. But I don't think it's my turn next. It's Rudi's next.
Yeah. To be honest, I really am also struggling a little bit. I had the idea to potentially bring some llamas in. But I'm a little bit struggling with how and where they could fit, because they are quite a bit more mountainish. They need a little bit more stuff to climb on and to go up and down. So it might not make sense to bring them closer to the entrance. So we might need to look into how this fits into the mountain area. Maybe, but also I did also, and I'm actually favoring this at the moment, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do out of those two, but I'm also looking into some kind of reintroduction program, because people were commenting a lot lately that we have a little bit of a lack of education. And at the moment we have this one education center, which is quite from the very beginning, which was my first episode. You did an overhaul, but I think that was the only education center we have so far. So I had the idea of building like kind of a reintroduction center where we could have some example habitats that are not filled, like potentially just a few habitat ideas, and then just have some info signs about this where people can get educated about how different things work in habitats and why they have been done the way. Right. And maybe have also an added backstage area where we can have like a veterinarian habitat, because I figured we also do not have that. So this could also...
A habitat for veterinarians.
You can look at them, walk around. Yeah, it sounds
Exactly.
great.
Yeah, exactly. That's what
Free
you want to
roaming
do.
veterinarians, yes.
Very interesting to look at as well.
And if we don't treat them well enough, some protesters are gonna complain about human rights or whatever.
And
Well,
then
we
we'll
have
throw them
some-
into the protester corner.
I was about to say we still have some in here, so that shouldn't be too big of an issue. But no, but actually, like, how's this actually called in English? It's a medical. Is a medical habitat where you would bring them, because the zoos most likely have this one habitat
okay.
for all, you know, where
Yeah.
yeah, if like an ill animal is there in quarantine or something, then yeah. Something
It's like an incubation habitat or something where they can keep an eye on the animals. Like they're trying to get them back out into the display.
These are the two things I have on my list, but yeah, who knows? And I'm definitely not gonna do both, I guess, because it's not that much time I have next week. So maybe focusing on one. But you never know with me. You never know.
Then you're really getting into the education theme, especially also after some of your earlier stuff with the education center as well.
Yeah, the thing is, I try to do this quite a bit more often because, like, the thing is, I'm super interested about the research, doing the research and getting myself informed about this because I find this really interesting because, like, habitat things are quite, after a time, you do know about some things, how habitats work, and this. I won't say it's gonna get boring, but there are some standards you're always using. It's getting a bit more repetitive, but with these education things, I feel like there's so much to explore and how different things work with animals, why different things are made. I find it super interesting, and that's the sole reason.
Right.
And this is also the sole reason why I lately tackled the Arctic pack in a way that I think no one else did. I built this Arctic research station instead of a zoo. Because I figured that these animals most likely are not in a zoo, so that would make sense. And yeah, I think it's just very interesting because the game offers you this kind of creativity to try and build that. And there are some ways to get people get there and be interested. You can still fool them guests, so this is gonna work. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we have to assume that we're probably going to have Vista points at some point.
Yeah, I really do hope so. Frontier, listening?
Same. If they're watching, that'd be pretty great.
Yeah, that will be good.
So just to get back into the habitat for a bit, this is where I decided to have some sort of viewing platform. And for the longest time, I couldn't figure out how to make this thing work because I wanted some kind of platform where you get a good in-depth look at the macaques, but I didn't want to destroy the view of, basically any place that you're looking at the orangutans from. And I also wanted to allow people to look at the orangutan habitat from this perspective as well, because, I don't know, it's such a huge habitat with so many different areas and so many different viewing platforms as well that I figured, might as well add this at the back of the temple. The temple actually looks pretty cool from up here. You kind of see the temple in the foreground. But then you look down, almost down into the valley of the rest of the zoo. So that's kind of cool. But I, of course, wanted to focus mostly on the macaques. So I ended up just settling for a very simple bamboo shade-based platform where you're kind of going up into the trees and looking at these two habitats.
Love it. Yeah, it's really, really simple so that your eye isn't caught by it. And like you showed in the pictures, that you can't see this structure at all when you're looking up at the temple, which is amazing.
Yeah.
That's really cool, yeah.
Yeah, everything is kind of about sight lines in this episode, which you don't get to see in the time lapse because I just took some time every time before building something to see, okay, how's this going to be located? What's it going to look like? Because there's so much to be careful about right now at this point, because all of the parts in this zoo have very carefully constructed sight lines where you see some things and some things are carefully obstructed from the view. And for the temple, this goes especially because you see it from a bunch of places. And I really had to make sure that from these places that you can see the temple from, you aren't able to see this new building and vice versa. So that was kind of a big struggle here. So a lot of it comes into play with the foliage. There's just putting trees everywhere to obscure the view mostly.
Very cool.
Super cool. By the way, I just want to mention, Sylph, do not complain again about the foliage introductions of everyone else, because I just saw you popping down trees into the ground for bushes like a madman.
Yeah.
I just want to add though, I don't know, I think you guys had trouble with that as well. This is the only way to really do not destroy the traversable area, right? So it's got to be done because you get some cool bushes and some cool ground effects without actually destroying the traversable area. It's kind of a thing I really hope that maybe Frontier can look into, because some of the bushes are like elephant grass, for example. It looks super good, but it kind of destroys your whole habitat because the hitbox is, I don't know. So, yeah.
I also find it strange because animals always start floating on top of elephant grass.
Yeah, it becomes
I still add it
traversable
because
area.
it just looks so good. But every now and then you just see some animals do some weird stuff.
Yeah, I got to say, I basically removed this from every project I made so far. Like, I put it in and it's like looking super good, but it's just not practical. It's a bit of a downer because it really looks cool. And you can use it for gardens. It's awesome. It's looking amazing. But as soon as someone has to interact with it, I love, by the way, the little planter you did over here. What's not that little though, but I love this planter.
I love the slopes. Just
thank you.
looking at the slow inclines. It makes my heart happy.
Yeah, there are slow, very, very gradual inclines all over this thing. Although, I'm also glad that the natural environment just kind of forced me to do this, because otherwise, maybe it's just my Dutch background, but otherwise I just like to keep everything flat.
Oh, damn it. Yeah. Now you are the one you can make some jokes about that. So let's keep on going with the Dutch jokes. I felt it was a bit too German heavy lately, so.
I mean, I just feel like there are more good jokes about German people. I'm sorry. It's just
maybe
it's just more stereotypes, perhaps. Well, that was it for this episode. I'm just gonna leave y'all with some cinematic photos of this habitat, because I tried cheat engineering the heck out of my game, and even that didn't save it. I'm just stuck with some screenshots for now. So I'd like to thank y'all in the audience for watching this video. I want to thank you, Rudi and Mike, for coming to record this with me.
You're very welcome.
Yep, same.
All right, and we'll see each other next week on Rudi's channel.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Absolutely. Stay safe. Have a good weekend.
Bye.